只能说我是台湾人，因为我不能说我是加拿大人。This dad was saying like, if somebody did that to my daughter, I would kill them. I can't believe that happened to you. And I'm just like, my name is Claire. I'm an animator. Been here all my life. I'm a mixed kid. Exclusively only been to Mandarin schools. My parents met through English teaching. They were hippies. I think in Taiwanese culture, the idea of mixed kids is like very cute and like very desirable. So like I was on a few kid magazines for like toys and stuff. And I was just like, don't you want Taiwanese kids? And they're like, no, we want the foreigner, like the white boy. I've lived my entire life being a Taiwanese person, but then I'm treated as if I'm an outsider. I was sitting at a mosque and I was just drawing. There was this old person. He just walked towards me and he went, good evening. And I was like, and then he was like, oh. And then he walked out because he wanted to practice his English. 我当然是可以讲中文，但别人就哦，你的中文很好。我说其实我中文很烂，就是我没有离开台湾，我应该中文应该要比较棒一点，但是比较喜欢英文。我其实之前假装我是外国人，像买鞋子或者去看医生，非常非常紧张。Oh, sorry, my Mandarin. 我可以讲一点点。I associated Mandarin with a lot of the more distressing moments in my life. When I was 4, my parents fell apart. Then my mother got together with my stepfather, which was my babysitter at the time. Just imagine like a Taiwanese Tarzan. He's a 高山嚮导. After that, moved to Dulan, Taidong. To kind of give context, my stepfather was very obsessed with not living like the modern man. We lived in this 铁皮屋. Basically imagine from this wall to that wall, that was our entire house. Our bedroom, our kitchen, our living room.
For 3 people.
Yes, and my sister. And then after that, another sister. He has a very high expectation for himself, and because we became family with him, he kind of put that expectation onto us as well. He doesn't like plastic, any chemicals, no dolls with faces, not looking in the mirror. He was also a big nudist. He expected everyone else to do that. All of his friends would do the same, like if they came to visit our house. One day, like at 6 a.m., he woke me up and he had a dead barking deer tied up to the well, and he handed me a knife and wanted me to butcher it. He expected me to immediately be able to
to be able to skin the deer,
take out the intestines and everything.
Then you get like pissed because you didn't know how to do it?
Yeah, I was homeschooled, but I wasn't learning anything. Like the things that I was learning was how to climb a coconut tree with a piece of string. And I was like, what am I gonna do with this? And I remember asking him, I was like, oh, stepfather, what am I gonna do with this information? And he's like, your future boyfriend will think you're so cool.
Is that true, Ethan?
Do you think
it's
I'm cool?
Oh, yeah.
So I would like do 2 weeks in Taidong and 2 weeks in Taipei. After a while, like I started taking the train by myself.
This is when you were 7 years old?
Yeah. My mom was
Maybe?
like, she can handle herself. So many people were so worried about me. They would come up and be like, are you by yourself? There was like a few people who would take me to my dad's work and be like, how could you leave your kid? It's just like,
that every week.
Yeah. And then my dad's like, well, I gotta work, man. At the time, I was going to an Aboriginal school. This was in Sulu. This was like 800的海拔. The school only had 98 students from kindergarten to 6th grade. Everyone was 布农, every single person. I was very tall and very white. Did not fit in at all. Even though my stepfather is quite rich, he lives like a poor man. We had like indoor fires, so all of our clothes smell like barbecue, basically. So they immediately equated that to being poor. I was quite bullied very heavily for that. A lot of the times it was verbal. They would call me rat, 白狗, or 巫婆. Physical bullying, like kick me or like step on my shoe or like pull my hair, take my lunch bowl so I couldn't eat. There was this specific guy, he would grab my tits and be like, oh, just making sure you're not just putting in padding. But I remember telling my principal, and he's like, well, his mom passed away, so he needs female attention. And I'm like, why the f is that my responsibility? Like, awesome. What am I supposed to do about that? But then we had a survey every year. Are you being bullied? Are you being harassed? And I would click yes to being harassed and being bullied. And then every single year, the teacher would be like, oh, no. If you write yes, there's going to be a therapist that comes to school. Ooh, you don't want a therapist, do you?
And they would see it and then change it.
Yeah, because they said, no, that makes the school look really bad. So I'll talk to him, okay? I'll talk to him. And then they would talk to him, never went away. Even to the day that I graduated, I asked that guy and I was like, why did you hate me so much? And he's like, 谁叫你要当外国人? Because our school was so 偏僻. The government really didn't care about our school. We did have a lot of charities that would keep donating to the school, but it's not that they need. Okay, thanks for the cake and like the juice box. I still have family issues. The guy that was bullying me, he was actually paying for his own school tuition by working at which it is a tourist attraction. It was so surreal to see a bunch of kids hired to dress up in indigenous outfits to dance for tourists to see what the Bunongzu were like. And then they would dress back into their jeans and get paid. That feels gross. Because my parents would have to go to like the mountains and all the time, I would have to stay at other people's houses about a month or something.
A whole month at a time?
Yeah. In the indigenous community, a lot of them are Catholics or Christians, and so they have a lot of kids. You just see these like babies like just walking around the street. Like I knew a girl where she accidentally killed her baby sister because she left her baby sister in a hot car. So she was estranged from her family and was put into an orphanage. Then she was raped by, I think, one of her family members, so she was brought back into the family. In indigenous communities, if something happens to you, you kind of just live with it because your police is probably your uncle. A lot of them, they just like, oh, just turn to God and your problems will go away. That's like the only thing that they really have. Growing up in an environment where it didn't really allow any time to be like learning, most of the time I was kind of either fighting for my life, fighting for my mom's life, or like letting go. When I already left the house and I told her, your husband shouldn't be hurting you physically, and she's like, well, marriage isn't always sunshine and rainbows. And I'm like, it also shouldn't be like the Saw movie. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I was like that bad, like she's being hit.
Yeah. He would get so angry at us that he threw knives at us, missed, and then asked us to go grab it again so he could throw it again. I remember there was this one time he was beating me and he was like telling me, because he's like also a teacher, can you believe how horrible of a kid you are? I've never hit a kid ever before you. That's how horrible you are. Like, that I've had to actually hit you.
What did your dad think about all of this?
In his brain, he kind of was just like, I don't have a daughter, because he thinks that my stepfather stole his wife and child. So he wouldn't pick up any of our calls. One time I called my dad and my dad didn't pick up, and my stepfather grabbed my shoulders and he said, you don't have a dad anymore. I'm your dad now.
Whoa.
And he said, you thought you had a dad? No, you don't. Once I left, when I was in Taipei, finally kind of realizing how fucked up everything was, to go from literally fighting my stepfather and then going back to school and like, oh, let's learn Guoyu. Like a dam breaking. Like a lot of people, when they hear about my situation, they blame a lot of it on my mom, saying that, why didn't you leave? But like, she's actually been manipulated for 9 years. He said, you are so lucky to have me because you are so sick and broken as a person. I'm the only person that is willing to take care of you and still take you on. For my first year of junior high, I was just crying all the time. People didn't bully me, but they didn't know what to do with me. Like this one classmate, I'm sure that she did it in the kindest of her heart of hearts. If I did something right, if like I handed in my homework on time or something, she would start singing the happy birthday song at me. It felt me like, what? I felt so infantilized. I was like, what is going on? Please stop. I think I struggle very heavily with the school system. A lot of kids in school actually don't rely on the teacher. They rely on going to cram school and learning what they need to learn for the future semester.
So what is everyone doing in class? Just spacing out?
Yep, 聊天, reviewing what they already learned in cram school. Just like talking with the teacher.
That's so weird.
It's so insane, and it's like, how am I supposed to keep up with people that already know what they're doing? And especially in a school system where numbers mean everything. Numbers mean your worth, and they will post the test results in the back of the board. So that's why 学霸 is treated so highly. I remember the 学霸 in my class were so weird. I like they were identical twins and they would just walk around holding hands, like skipping everywhere. It was like, what am I The Shining? Like, but like they were never questioned because they had high grades. You're strange and you have low grades. It's like, that's the reason that you have low grades. It's because you're strange.
So did you have like the worst grades in your class?
Yes, 100%. It's so hard to have the motivation to do the things I'm supposed to do in a traditional Taiwanese setting. A lot of Taiwanese students think because my parents are spending so much time and money for my education, the least I can do to pay them back is like get into a good school. But for me, I don't have that motivation. My mom is like climbing a mountain and my dad's playing guitar and teaching English. This doesn't pertain to me.
Probably your mom doesn't expect that you're going to take care of her when she's old.
She doesn't care. My dad, I don't think he has the idea that he's going to get old. He still acts like he's 20. I'm not saying that every single mixed kid struggles with this, because I know mixed kids that have succeeded really well. It really matters if your parents like care about your grades, because the Taiwanese school system, it's not just the student that has to put in. The parents have to put in as well. They have to care about their tests.
Reviewing their homework
exactly.
and stuff.
So if you have parents that don't do that, then you are going to fail. The only reason I dropped out wasn't because I wanted to pursue art specifically, was because of my depression. The only thing that was like keeping me alive was knowing I wanted to make art a career. I remember just completely shutting out out the outside world, and all I would do is just sit in coffee shops and just draw on my iPad. Everything that I learned, I didn't learn from a school. Every technique I learned from studying other people's art pieces or a tutorial or my friends. It's very strange because now that I have a more popular presence, a lot of the classmates that ignored me or didn't talk to me come back. Hey, can we go out to lunch sometime? Like, I'm sorry, I didn't know why I bullied you. They were like, oh, she's never gonna go anywhere. I'm like, me picking up art and like making it a job was more of like out of determination and pettiness. I'm just like, watch me, bitch. Like, I'm going to